The G3C pistol is the newest version of Taurus's long-running series of 9mm subcompacts. Taurus updates these pistols a little bit every few years, but the basic design goes all the way back to the original Millennium pistol from the turn of the century. A lot of people get confused about the different generations of these guns, so we're going to go over the whole series real quick. Maybe not that quick. I only scripted the first part of this beforehand, so I don't know how long it's going to be. The very first version of the gun, the PT-111 Millennium, was released in about 1998. It is a polymer frame striker-fired pistol with a DAO trigger. It would have been Taurus's first plastic pistol and their first striker-fired pistol. Despite the fact that the trigger is a heavy and long double action, it still has a manual safety. These pistols also had the Taurus security system, which is an internal lock built into the slide that locks the trigger and the action of the gun. The magazines have a capacity of 10 rounds in 9mm. This was during the assault weapons ban, so a 12-round standard capacity wouldn't have made much sense. The guns also have a visual and tactile loaded chamber indicator built into the extractor. I have seen pictures of Gen 1 Millenniums that do not have the LCI or the internal lock, so those features may have been introduced partway through the life cycle of the pistol, or the absence of those features might indicate a pistol produced for the Brazilian domestic market instead of for the United States. Takedown of the first 3 generations of the Millennium requires you to rotate the takedown lever and pull the takedown lever out of the gun. There was a very rare variant of the Gen 1 Millennium with a titanium slide. I'm not sure how many were produced or how long it was available for. Around the same time, Taurus made some titanium frame revolvers as well, which is pretty cool. The original Millennium was replaced by the Millennium Pro in approximately 2004. They have a greatly improved grip shape and texture, and an increased standard capacity of 12 rounds of 9mm. The second gen pistols are still a double action only trigger. You can also tell the second gens apart because the word Pro is stamped on the left side of the slide after the word Millennium. The third gen pistols are an update to the Millennium Pro, but they don't have a distinct name. I'm not sure what year they were first produced, perhaps around 2006 to 2008. This may have been considered an incremental improvement to the Gen 2 and not considered by Taurus as a replacement model. The third gen pistols say Pro on the right side of the slide after the model number. The major change to the third gen pistols is a double action, single action striker-fired trigger system. However, they still don't have a decocker, so it's basically single action with a double action restrike capability. The trigger and the safety interact strangely on these pistols, which led to a recall. The safety can be actuated when the trigger is already pulled part of the way to the rear, allowing you to fire 1 round even when the safety is on. These pistols are also not completely drop safe. The trigger has no safety blade, so if the safety is not applied or is applied incorrectly, the trigger has enough weight to travel to the rear if the gun is dropped from a significant height onto the back of the slide. I suspect this won't happen with the much longer and heavier trigger pull of the DAO guns. Some 3rd gen Millennium Pro owners take advantage of a quirk of the guns to reassemble them with a round in the chamber, allowing them to carry it with a double action trigger pull. I think you can tell this is a bad idea for a lot of reasons. A lot of the 3rd generation pistols were sold with Heine straight 8 sights. These are metal sights with 2 vertically stacked white dots. I don't know if these were available before the 3rd generation, but I haven't seen any 3rd gen pistols without them. I like the idea of straight 8 sights, but I'm never able to connect with them the same way that I can with 3 dots or single dot sights. Taurus replaced the 3rd gen pistols with the PT-111 Millennium G2 in approximately 2010, I think. The major redesign for the G2 is the addition of a Glock-style trigger safety blade, which should address the drop safety concerns. The G2 has an accessory rail and plastic 3-dot adjustable sights. The shape of the frame and the grip was greatly changed for the G2, and the slides seem a bit shorter, so from the G2 onwards the guns sit much lower in the hand and are more ergonomic. The G2 also has improved Glock-style takedown tabs, and no longer requires you to remove a pin from the gun. The G2 still has the Taurus security system internal lock, and it still has a loaded chamber indicator. However, instead of being on the extractor, it was moved to the top of the slide, similar to the indicator on the Ruger SR series. The Millennium G2 was replaced by the G2C. At that point, Taurus had completely retired the Millennium brand name. The G2C drops the TSS internal lock and has basically no other changes. It's still pretty much exactly the same as the G2. And that brings us to the G3C, which was released this year. This is the most significant redesign since the switch from Millennium to Mil Pro. The G3C no longer has a loaded chamber indicator. Instead, the top of the barrel hood has a witness hole. The deep scallops on the front of the slide are gone, and now it has front slide serrations, which I don't really care about, but they are cool looking. The G3C incorporates the new style of trigger from the full-size G3 pistol. The trigger blade safety is much wider and goes flush with the face of the trigger. It still functions the same as the G2C, it just feels a lot nicer. Instead of the plastic 3 white dot adjustable sights, the G3C has metal sights with a front white dot and serrated blacked out rear. The sight cut is also Glock compatible. These pistols are still made in Brazil for now, but if production comes to the new Taurus facility in Bainbridge, Georgia, it's possible Taurus will make a version of the G3C with no manual safety. The magazine baseplates of the G3C have a slight scalloped contour to them to aid extraction, although the magazines are drop-free, so I'm not sure how important that is. Other than that very small change, they're still the exact same 12-round mags from the second generation pistols. The G3C comes with 3 mags, and 2 of the mags that came with my T&E pistol are actually marked PT-111 Pro. They look identical to the mags from my PT-111 Millennium Pro Gen 3. I use the old Millennium Pro mags in the G3C and vice versa. They all work totally fine except for one of the G3C mags that won't feed properly in the old Millennium Pro. It's one of the mags marked as PT-111 Pro, so I'm not even sure why that is. I don't think the Millennium Pro likes the new mags. Ooh, that felt weird. Not a good sign. Every single version of the Millennium pistol has been better than the versions that came before it. The G3C is the best version of this gun by far. However, Taurus used to offer the Millennium in several calibers, all of which had a single or double stack variant. This included stuff like the 10-round double-stack PT-145 or the 6-round single-stack PT-745, which competed with the Glock 30 and the Glock 36 respectively. They also made the PT-138, which was a 12-shot 380, kind of a rare configuration for a polymer-framed striker-fired subcompact. The current gen pistols are only available in the double-stack 9mm variant. If you want a single stack, you're still stuck with the last gen G2S. It seems likely that Taurus will update the range to include a G3S, but I doubt they'll ever expand it to include 45 ACP, 380 ACP, or 40 Smith & Wesson again. And that's fine. I'm not very interested in subcompacts in calibers other than 9mm. So the G3C is basically the 6th generation Millennium pistol. Part of the naming confusion stems from the use of the G2 moniker on what was technically the 4th generation pistols. What are you going to do with this information? I don't know. I made a G3C first impressions video for TFB TV you can watch for more info, linked above. And stay tuned for a more thorough review coming soon. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks. See you next time. What could be more American on this 4th of July than mag dumping a pair of Brazilian pistols? Nice.